Welcome to Disruption Now. We are live from Afrotech in Oakland. I'm Rob Richardson, and I'm honored here to be joined by What Sibling Rivalry here in Oakland. And it's good to be here with you both, Kente and Shonda.
Right. Kente Scott, Shonda Scott.
Yes, Shonda Scott of What Sibling Rivalry, Oakland natives. We're happy to be here. Welcome, Rob, to Oakland.
It's good to be in Oakland.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Weekend.
Yeah, it is. It's been a good weekend.
Shout out to Liege Lounge for letting us have this establishment for a little while.
Liege Lounge is actually ground zero for Afrotech. Everything Afrotech is right in this uptown area in Old Oakland. We're happy to be here. I'm glad Afrotech came here and decided that Oakland was the best place in the Bay Area to have something like Afrotech. Funny part is, for Kente and I growing up here in Oakland, Afrotech was every day.
Right.
Afrotech was every. We have a little technical difficulty.
Yeah, we have a little bit. Hey, live events, things happen.
Yeah, Afrotech is. Like my dad came down to. He remember when they built this Marriott where Afrotech is being hosted in the conferences, and he saw all the people, like 6,000 people from all across the country. All these African Americans here. He's like, this is what this looked like when they built the Marriott here. Like that. And when we were growing up, Afrotech was every day, so there was no need for an Afrotech. But now there is a need.
Well, it is. It is, and that's that's kind of a really great reference point, Shonda. When you think about our community, we've been entrepreneurs, and I think we've lost some of that. Before integration, we had to be entrepreneurs because it was about survival. And I would argue it's still about survival, but some of us have gotten comfortable and have accepted what's in front of us. So I'm sure you guys have seen the study. By 2053, if current trends continue, median black wealth will go to zero. Mm-hmm. Those are the projections. We started Disruption Now to really disrupt these kind of narratives and constructs, because I don't want to accept that. I don't think we have to accept that. Right. And the only way to really change that is through entrepreneurship, and there's a really great opportunity in this current climate when you look at tech and you look at data. It's an opportunity that if you have the skill set, if you have the vision, and if you have the drive, you can go and you can create that opportunity for yourself. Mm-hmm. I believe this area is going to be the area that's going to help close the gap, but we as a community have to be ready. So that's why these conversations, and that's why Afrotech and what Afrotech is talking about is so important. So I want to actually talk more about that. Right. I know you guys have, as a family, you guys have had generations of businesses, which is, I would like that to be the rule instead of the exception.
Well, that's part of the issue with our African American communities. We don't have generational wealth. Like even as back far as the Tulsa massacre, they call it riots, but the massacre,
that was a massacre.
We were building generational wealth, and then outside forces came in and didn't want that generational wealth to pass down.
It was a massacre and a robbery.
Yes.
They took.
Same thing happened in Oakland, California. Our parents were a part of a collective of booming African American businesses in the 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, right when it was at the peak where Oakland was about to become the second chocolate city.
Right.
Outside forces came in and shut it all down. So it's almost like they see us close to winning and they push us back because they know the power that we have that we don't even know we have.
We don't even know.
Our stuff.
We give away our.
We give away everything from culture to tech to entrepreneurial ideas. We give it away. As far back as the man who created Jack Daniel's whiskey got the idea from a black man, and the black man just gave it to him.
He did.
We are great at ideas. They're great at patents.
No, that's good.
There's a couple of things there. One, in that case with the Jack Daniels, I mean, he was not. Black African Americans couldn't have patentship, and you didn't have ownership. So a lot of the things that we created have been taken credit with and built wealth on, and we haven't benefited from it.
Shout out to the Black Bourbon Society. I actually had a podcast on them and talked about that.
But what's important as far as it's fine to have entrepreneurship, but if you have a business and people aren't supporting it, that's the problem. Like we have to. After slavery, we didn't have a choice. Everybody was about their community. When there was segregation, you had to spend money in African American businesses because that's all you could go to. Now you have choices. Now we have to condition our generations that they have to spend money strategically in their community.
Right. Yeah.
What the reason why that number says in 2053 will be extinct financially because the way we spend, spend $1.7 trillion as a culture but we spend
Outside.
6 hours. 6 hours. Our dollar only lasts around 6 hours in our community. Where in the Asian and other Asian community is 30 days.
30 days.
So
Yeah.
as soon as they
Jewish
get a dollar,
community is
it goes
60
in. It goes around for a month.
Yeah.
The Jewish, no, it's not. It's like I think it's 15 days. And then the Hispanic community was 17 days, and at hours for our community.
Right.
So we continue spending and not being strategic in how we spend our money. Like every business here should be overflowing. Every black business here should have been overflowing with people here.
Yeah.
With 6,000 people just coming, new people coming without, and it's 400,000 people in Oakland. So that's in addition to.
Yeah.
So that spend, we'd have to track to see how many black businesses gain from that spend.
Yeah.
So if we look and see the numbers and the businesses that are African American owned that are here in Oakland did not benefit to an astronomical
Afrotech.
amount from Afrotech, then that is where we got to go back to the wheel, because it's not just having a business, it's actually having us spend in our business.
The guy, it was prime example, was the Popeyes chicken sandwich.
Oh,
that
Lord.
Exploded because everybody
Because black people started trends.
Black
people
really
started
love
trends.
chicken.
Yeah.
But a guy in Los Angeles was right across the street where they had an hour-and-a-half line.
Right.
And he went over with the sign. He said, "These people's chicken sandwich is not even as close as good as mine. I'm right across the street here, and there's no wait."
No,
And
yeah.
so he had to go get some of the customers.
Did they come?
because- yeah, some of them came, and some of them like yours, but they didn't do the after part. Like they didn't hashtag Charlie's chicken sandwich.
Right.
They didn't do that part, so it never trended. Popeye's chicken sandwich is okay. It's just chicken.
Some okay hormone
But
injected.
It's not better.
I
than
wouldn't
any of
recommend
these-
it that much.
it's not better than any of these mom and pop African
I agree.
American diners that make chicken sandwich forever. And you be like, oh, this is phenomenal. But Popeyes makes it, and we lose our minds and get behind it. Wait an hour and a half for a $3 sandwich that's just a chicken sandwich.
Well, as we think about, I think it comes to changing our mindset.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
because we, as a community, we're really good at protesting. I tell folks, we can protest, we can have a march, and I am for protest. Protest is nothing wrong with protest, and I think it's a necessary ingredient for systemic change. But it's one. You
Right.
got to move past protest. Then you got to protest is nothing unless you have policy to actually implement something. But policy is not even sustainable. Unless you actually have economic empowerment.
Exactly.
You own something. That's the only, and really making sure we align those is something we as a community still haven't done. And I think that's the next step, understanding and changing our mindset, because we've been told that the way we get saved, the way we get equalized is through education. That's also false, right? Education is still important,
Right.
but what's more important is to have a skill and understand entrepreneurship, because that's how we really change narratives and we begin to change outcomes, and then we begin to change our communities. So.
And a couple of points on that. The protest has changed because we don't have a goal with our protest.
Yeah.
We're just let's protest Target. Well, why?
And it's reactive, too.
And it's reactive. And what are we getting out of it? And Colin Kaepernick has a great movement. But what are we getting now? Now that we have the platform.
Right.
What is our message now? Like the bus boycott was, we need equal rights, and we're not going to use your buses until we're treated equally on your buses.
Yeah.
And they stuck it out. Our protests now are, like you said, reactionary. And then 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, we're like, oh, are we still protesting Gucci? Oh, I thought we were still mad.
Right.
Yeah. And then
everybody forgot, and then we get back to it. And
yeah.
so part of what and I actually want to bring Travis Holloway in, who is really, I think, trying to disrupt an industry that has to be disrupted. You know, payday loans are really predatory to our community.
My gosh.
They are, right?
Yeah.
You talk about 300%, 400%, 500%. And, so this brother and also Rodney Williams, who's also been on the show too, they both came up with this concept. And I'm going to let him come in. Come on in, man.
But while he's coming in, I wanted to just explain to the audience what's happening here. Because of Afrotech, it is in Oakland, we decided what Sibling Rivalry to partner with Disruption Now and have a mashup
Crossover.
show
Yeah. Yes.
for Afrotech weekend here in Oakland. And we're here at Liege Lounge, which is a black-owned establishment in Oakland, filming this live. So we're on Facebook Live as well. And so all of that ties into black entrepreneurship and cultivating it not only in multiple generations. So our family was 4 generations of entrepreneurs. Our great grandfather was out of slavery. He was the son of a slave and a slave owner, and he became a developer in Denver, Colorado.
Wow.
And so in 1926, he built a cabin that's still in our family this day.
Oh, wow.
And so we did a show with our matriarch of our family and our dad and his siblings.
In Denver,
She's
Colorado.
95. to tell us how they were able to keep that just that piece of property in the family.
By the time we give up the property,
right,
too.
and they strategically kept it passing it down, so it's all in the family from multi-generations that they have to continue to pass it down in the legacy. So that's how we can, as a people, continue to. I met a group of people in Chicago. They're 4 generations businesses. They're like 2 families that have been in business in Chicago for 4 generations, and they did the same thing. Yeah. So it's the strategy that we have to have. And so you're going to talk to us about leveraging equity and
well, beyond that, it's about, because I think, and I'll let Travis speak, but as a kind of transition, you know, you were very fortunate. That's unfortunately that's a blessing, and that's not a common story in the Black community. We should celebrate it. We should celebrate the fact that you were able to do that. I don't have the same exact story, but my parents definitely built a legacy for me to be able to be here. This is why I have that ability. Like, there's just, I want to make sure more people have that. And one of the issues and why you see that trend with Black wealth trending towards zero when it comes to median net worth is because a lot of it is because of debt. And a lot of it, right? And so, you know, this brother actually looked at that. He was a financial planner, I believe, before that. So they're actually trying to create an ecosystem. I'm going to let him explain that, to disrupt all that and really disrupt the payday loan industry. So I think that's really awesome. So you just talk a little bit about why you think solo funds, right?
Yes.
Solo funds is the platform. Why is that so important, and what do you want to change through solo funds?
I think that solo is important primarily because our communities have been, you know, ravaged by the effects of predatory lending.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And when you look at, you know, Black and brown communities specifically, who are subject to an average of 400% interest rates.
400%.
Yeah, that's the average.
The
right?
average.
Yeah, the average is 400%. And, you know, when the problem is that, you know, that is one of our only options, right? If you need access to small dollar loans, it doesn't matter how long you've been a JP Morgan Chase customer or a Bank of America customer. If your car breaks down and you're $300 short, those institutions will not lend you that type of capital. So,
and not only that, when you're out of money, they're going to charge you more capital.
Exactly. Right? So, you talk about payday lending, and then you also talk about overdraft fees. They cost you $36 to overdraft by $1. You know, you're talking about thousands of percent. When you actually look at, you know, the effects of
high cost of poverty.
Exactly. So it's very expensive to be poor, to your point. So, you know, with that said, you know, I said, you know, my co-founders and I, we were having these experiences, and really what derives, like where this company really derives from, is that we were having these personal experiences where people would ask us for small dollar loans. And when I talk about the lack of resources, typically friends and family are the top ways that you would solve a short-term cash need, under $1,000 specifically. And I'm sure we probably all know the effects of
and to that point,
friends and family borrowing.
You know, can't come to the cookout.
There's pressure when you're the first to make it, and you're seen as whatever, rich, wealthy, relatively speaking, even if you don't feel that way, to people in your community, you look that way. And then there's pressure, kind of a survivor's guilt, to figure out how we get back. And and I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but then kind of like the analogy is, if you're going down in the plane, you got to put on the oxygen mask first.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, so I think your ecosystem is helping to do that and figure out ways to empower people too, because I'm sure everyone that's been successful in any way has gone through that. And so reframing the narrative about how we do this and make people understand this is how we create long-term sustainable wealth for our community.
Exactly. You know, one of the unique things about being, you know, African American is that oftentimes, especially with how many of us are first generation college students, you guys have a long family legacy, which is incredible. And it's also inspiring and something that I want to create for my family. But you know, a lot of times you can be 23 years old and be the most successful person in your family. And, you know, because I wore a suit and carried a briefcase every day, people would automatically come to me for these loans. And I remember when my co-founder raised his, you know, his Series B, and I remember reading the tagline of, you know, how much he raised. You know, our communities aren't really familiar with.
They're like $30 million. Like, oh wait, can I get a half?
And in their heads, that means that you have that.
Exactly. That means you have $30 million in the bank.
We stay